Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Mom.
Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, let's make some pie.
All right. We're going to use a recipe that was my grandmother's, and she made the pies for family dinners. And then my mom kind of took that over and she made the pies. And we realized one day that there wasn't a recipe written down. So Uncle Paul actually went to her house and said, make the pie crust I'm going to watch and write it down. So
That's awesome.
we watched grandma and made it happen. So this recipe has 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of butter, a cup of shortening, a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt. And today I'm going to add a little bit of orange rind because we're going to make a blueberry orange pie.
Ooh,
I thought that would be a fun addition to the crust.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
So, does this recipe work if you don't do the orange peel? Can you make a savory pie with this?
Yes. You can take the
Cool.
peel out. So,
Oh, wow. Cool. Okay, thanks.
so I'm going to pour my 3 cups of flour in, a tablespoon of sugar, teaspoon of salt, and mix that up so I don't get any clumps of sugar or salt into the dough. And then I like to do a lot of preparation work just to make it easier for me. And so what I did was I don't know if you can see this. I measured out the shortening and put it in clumps on a plate, and I grated the butter.
Oh, okay.
And then I put it in the freezer because you want the fat in your pastry. That's what makes the fluffiness and the layers and the flavor. I use half shortening and half butter. Well, that, I should say the family recipe is that.
Okay.
I did look up a little bit of science on that, and the butter melts faster than the shortening.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the butter melts and the shortening melts, that's where the layers come in and the flakiness and the tenderness of the crust.
Cool.
And so you want to keep everything cold as you can, and then mix it up using this little tool here is a pastry blender.
Okay.
Use your fingers to mix up the dough, but the heat from your hand is going to melt the butter.
Oh, so maybe a fork would work if
So, yes, if you don't have a
that
pastry,
too.
you can use 2 knives. You can use a fork. So this is going to mix up pretty fast because of the grated butter. And what you're trying to do is coat the butter and the shortening in the flour. So you're going to leave it about the size of peas in there. That's what's going to create your tenderness. I'm going to zest my orange. This is a microplane, this tool.
Okay.
You can use a cheese grater if you want. You could thinly slice a piece off and dice up the zest. The thing you want to be careful about is that you just get the top of the orange. If you go deeper than that, then you hit the white part. That's called the pith, and that's bitter.
Ooh, it's called the what? A
Pith.
pit? Pith.
P-I-T.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know who came up with that word, but
Well, I heard pip or pit, and I was like, neither of those sound good. Pith doesn't sound good either.
anyway, I just imagine the word pith came from somebody tasting the bitter part and going pith, pith. But who knows?
Good way to remember it, at least.
Yeah. So then I'm just gonna stir that in. It smells really good too.
Yeah, I love that citrus
And it really
smell.
complements the blueberries, the citrus. All right, so I have these chunks and my orange rind in there. And then I'm going to add 1/3 cup of very cold milk. So I've been storing that in the refrigerator. Then once those big clumps start to form and there's not a lot of powdery flour at the bottom, you can start to work it a little bit with your hands.
Okay.
So you can see in here now it's like a big clump.
Okay.
And today we're going to make mini pies. So
Cute.
I'm going to divide the dough into 4 equal pieces.
Okay.
As I can get. And
If you weren't making a mini pie, how many pies could you make out of this?
you could make 2 pies out of this.
Okay.
2 8 or 9 inch pies. Those are pies with a top and a bottom crust. If you did a different kind of topping, like a crumb topping, you could get 4 pies.
Okay.
A non-fruit pie, like a custard pie or banana cream pie, you would
Yeah.
get single crusts. So
Lemon meringue is my favorite.
that's right.
Yeah.
Do that. All right, so I have my 4 pie dough balls, and I'm gonna make them into like a 1-inch disc, 1-inch thick disc. We put them in a disc because when we take them out of the refrigerator to roll them, we let them just rest a little bit on the counter, and then they're a little bit easier to roll from a disc.
Okay. When I see you doing that quickly, and I bet that's because you don't want to melt the butter
Right.
by making these. Yeah.
Yeah. Resting the dough is really important because it gives it a chance to have the chemical reactions it needs to have, and it chills the butter again, and then that adds just to, you could roll it out right now, but you would have a little bit tougher crust. So
Oh.
in a pinch, if
Yeah.
you need it, you could do it, but it's best if you let it chill. So I'm going to wrap those and put them in the refrigerator. In the meantime, I'm going to show you how to make the filling. 1/2 of an orange grated and about 1/2 cup of blueberries.
When you say you have 1/2 of an orange grated.
I'm sorry, a good clarifying question. Not grated.
Oh, okay. I was like, tell me more about how you grated an orange.
So yeah, so squeezed. And then I have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch,
Okay.
3 tablespoons of water to mix, and we're going to thicken that up. And then blueberries are pretty sweet in themselves, so I just put 1/2 cup of sugar in.
Okay.
And I'm going to add a little bit of zest to this too. So if I can move this up, you can see that better.
Okay.
All right, so on a little medium heat, I'm going to mash the berries.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, we want to get the juice out of the berries. We're using a lot more berries in the pie than this, but this is going to kind of marry the flavors,
Okay.
get the juice out of the berries. Stir it up until it thickens. So you see the juice is kind of opaque.
Yeah.
As it cooks and gets hotter, it's going to get clear.
Okay. Interesting.
If you use flour, you'll have a cloudy color. But cornstarch gives it a nice clear. So it's starting to thicken up a little bit. I just turned it off because it's nice and thick now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm gonna take that off the heat.
That changed really quickly.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna put in, I have 2 pints or 4 cups of blueberries. And I'm gonna add this blueberries.
Okay.
While I'm rolling out the dough, I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator to cool off a bit.
Okay.
We wanna put it in the pie when it's cool. Otherwise you'll have a soggy crust. So I'm just kind of pushing it up against the sides so it cools.
Oh, wow. Looks beautiful.
And it's really important to taste your food because sometimes you leave out something.
True.
You want to use a clean spoon every time, not your fingers. Very good. The blueberries are just on a little bit on the tart side, and the sauce, I taste the orange and the sugar. So it's going to be really good. So let me put that in. All right. So just like the magic of TV, I made some dough earlier. That's good.
Okay.
So I have a little flour out, my rolling pin. I'm going to put a little flour underneath. So I'm going to put a little flour on the top. And then flour my rolling pin. Make sure there's some underneath. And then you roll from the middle out. I don't know if you can see in the dough, there's some butter chunks. Can you see that?
Just slightly. Yep. Yeah, I can see that.
So that's good. That's what you're looking for. Some of that, because that'll give you a nice little flake. So you can roll the dough. Some people like a thick crust. People like a little bit thinner, but I like to be able to handle it. And crust is one of my favorite parts of the pie. So how big do you make your pie crust?
Yeah.
Put your pie pan over and you cut around the perimeter, and I always leave about an inch around the edge.
Okay.
So you have room to make a fun little edge if you want. I'm going to save these pieces to the side. When I was growing up and Grandma made pie, she would bake those pieces with a little butter, cinnamon, and sugar.
I think you did that a few times too when I was little.
Yeah, then we'd get to eat them, and I loved that. So I'm going to put it in. Can you see that?
Yep.
You're just going to gently push down so you get it to form this with the sides of the pan.
Okay.
And
do you ever put anything on the pan to make the crust not stick, or would that ruin the dough?
You don't need to do that because there's a lot of fat in the pan, in the dough already. But good question. You can use, this is a tinfoil pan, obviously. You could use a metal pie pan, or you could use a glass pie pan. And I found that glass pie pan is the best because it cooks more evenly than a metal pie pan. And
Oh,
see the crust, which, you know, it's a lot of hard work to make the crust. So um, a glass pan is really nice, and then you just serve it right from the pan. But all right, so that's the inside. Now I'm gonna
nice.
I'll show you a couple different things you can do with the leftovers. I'm gonna cut out some of these little flowers, and
That's cute.
you can do the cinnamon sugar um, treats for friends or family, or you can use these on the top of your pie. And so I have some in the freezer chilling right now. So when we put the top on this pie, I'll show you how to do that. But that's just a little easy way to do a top of a pie. All right, so let me get that filling out of the refrigerator. So you can see it's got a nice little glaze to it.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna spoon it in.
Do you measure this or do you just eyeball it?
I just eyeball it and move it, even it out on the top, but just to the top edge. You don't want it a big mound in the middle of the blueberries because they do juice up and they can spill over when you're cooking. One other little thing is to add a little bit of butter on the top. And what that does is as the pie cooks, it just adds a little bit of a shine to the filling. So it looks pretty when you cut it.
Cool. I did not know that trick. I know that trick for red sauce. You add butter at the end and it's shinier, but
Yeah.
never for a pie.
So just a little side note.
Yeah.
I often forget this step. So if you should happen to forget, don't panic.
Okay.
It's gonna taste just as good and no one will ever know. It's just a little baker's secret.
Cool.
Earlier today, I made this little floured top and I put it in the freezer.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna lay it on the top of the pie.
It looks really cute. So how did you connect the flowers? Did you just press the dough together?
Let me show you this.
Okay.
What I did is I laid them down and just pressed a little petal together. You could do whatever design you want.
Okay.
And they also can just lay on their free form too. They don't have to connect, but I think it's kind of pretty.
It's like a flower lattice.
Yeah. So gosh, we could do pie baking too, and I could show you all different kinds of ways to do the edge of the crust and all that, but probably best to make your edge before you put your top on.
Why is that?
Top, because it's a little bit harder to work around it. It's not the end of the world, but you want to take that dough that's on the edge. And you see that? Just make little pinches.
You know, I've seen you do that in real life, but maybe hold it closer in case people don't know what it looks like if you lift it up towards the camera. Oh, that's great. Okay.
See?
So cute.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like rustic is really in right now. So, you know, if you run, I'm a little short on dough, so I can add a piece in there. See, I laid that piece on there.
Yeah.
Just to get some consistency. All right. So there's our little pie. One other little trick you can do they have a shiny crust on top. I've taken an egg white and mixed it with a tablespoon of water
Okay.
and beat it up. And then I'm just gonna dip it in. I don't want to drench it, but I just want to lightly brush the flowers. And when it bakes, it's going to get, the crust will get shiny. At this point, if you wanted, you could sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top just to add a little more texture and different kind of color. And then just lightly brush your edges too. After we have this step done, we're going to put it in the refrigerator for another 20 minutes and give it a chance for the fats to get nice and cold again.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we'll heat up the oven to 425. And I like to bake a fruit pie on top of a pan with some parchment paper underneath. My least favorite part of cooking is dishes. And when stuff goes over,
Same.
it goes onto the paper.
Okay.
Throw out the paper when you're done, and the pan's a lot easier to wash.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put the pie in the refrigerator for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we'll bake it. So you put the pie in the oven at 425 for 15 minutes, and it'll brown the top of your pie. The top of the pie is going to cook faster than the middle. So after 15 minutes, you're going to just lay a piece of foil loosely on top. It'll be a nice golden color, and then you'll turn the oven to 350 and bake for another 20 minutes.
Okay.
If it's not quite as dark as you want, you can take the foil off the last 5 minutes and get it to the color that you like.
I did not know that, the baking at 2 different temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
So do you wait for this is actually a silly question now that I say it out loud, but so you have it at the high heat, take the pie out and then lower it and then put the pie back in, or are you fine just keeping it in the oven as it adjusts to the lower temperature?
That's actually a great question.
Okay.
Keep it in the oven. Less chance of dropping the pie, but also that's figured into the baking. So it only takes a few minutes for the oven to lower. So you're covered there, but that's a great.
Okay.
All right. So we'll be back after it's baked.
Yay.
All right. So pies are out of the oven. The pie that we made with the little flowers on top.
Oh, it's so cute. Can you lift it up to the camera? There you go. Oh, wow. Yeah, that flower lattice is so fun.
Yeah.
Never thought to do that.
So I don't know if you can see this little flower kind of melted. And you can always learn from things you make.
Yeah.
But that's because there was a chunk of butter there that I didn't notice. And so it just melted in there. So it's still going to taste great, but presentation wise, it's something you just want to look out for when you're doing that. But I think that turned out really cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. And like you said, rustic is in, so.
That's true. Then I demonstrated a little lattice crust.
Oh, I do think that's my favorite, the classic.
Yeah. And then I did the egg wash on it as well and sprinkled a little bit of sugar on top.
Okay.
All right. And then, for old time's sake, the little sugar with the leftover crust. Well, I haven't had one of these little cinnamon things in a while. I think I might try it.
Yeah, a little taste test.
Whoa. Surprised myself. The dough is really flaky and flavorful, and it tastes really good. And when you get just a little hint of the orange, and actually the cinnamon is a really nice compliment in there. So you could, if you wanted, you could put a little cinnamon in with your fruit,
Oh, that's true.
added dimension. So this is our pies. They're a little too hot to cut right now. You want to, unless you don't care how it looks when you cut, you do want to let them cool about 3 or 4 hours and then cut them. Things you can eat with them are some whipped cream, and you can put a little orange zest on top of the whipped cream. You could serve it with ice cream. And so then I always like to do just a little bit of presentation,
Or you could just eat it right out of the tin.
or just eat it right out of the tin. Because I agree with you on everything, but because I don't think that's pie for two, I think it's pie for one. So just a little splash of color.
Cute.
We have a little pie party. Well, we're going to enjoy some pie here.
Yeah, it's inspiring. I'll have to try and make my own.
If you do, send me some pictures.
All right, I'll just have my coffee. Pretend I'm eating with you.
Cheers.
All right. Bye, Mom.